Vietnam is known for being budget-friendly, but we ran into some costs that totally shocked us. We came here thinking everything would be super cheap, like you see in all the vlogs. We were ready for the dollar bowls of pho and the 50-cent beers. And don't get me wrong, we found a lot of that. But what nobody tells you about are the hidden costs, the tourist traps, and the surprisingly high prices for things you wouldn't expect. We literally spent hundreds of dollars on things we thought would cost pennies. It was absolutely insane. I'm Jay, and in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 most shocking expenses we encountered on our trip through this beautiful country. We're going to dive deep into everything from street food that cost more than a restaurant meal to SIM card charges that felt like a straight-up scam. I'm going to give you the real, unfiltered story of our budget, and trust me, some of these numbers are going to blow your mind. We kept a detailed log of every single dong we spent, just for you guys. This isn't your typical how to travel Vietnam on $10 a day video. This is the real deal, the stuff that catches you off guard and can totally wreck your travel budget if you're not prepared. We made the mistakes so you don't have to. I'm going to show you exactly what to watch out for, where the money pits are, and how you can avoid the same shocks we did. Stick around to see which expense surprised us the most. You are not going to believe what it was. Let's get into it. Alright, first up, street food. This is what blew my mind right from the start. You see videos online of people eating for like $1. And yes, you can find that. But we walked up to this one street food stall in Hanoi's Old Quarter. It looked amazing. Everyone was eating there. We ordered some grilled seafood and a few other things, thinking it would be a few bucks. We didn't even ask for the price first. That was our first mistake. We just pointed at what looked good, and the vendor piled it on our plates. It was delicious. I can't even lie about that. Then the moment of truth came. The vendor scribbled a number on a piece of paper, and my jaw literally hit the pavement. It was the equivalent of almost $40 for street food. We were completely stunned. We could have gone to a fancy air-conditioned restaurant with table service for that price, maybe even for less. It felt like we had a giant tourist sign flashing over our heads. We later learned that some vendors, especially in super high traffic areas, have a completely different pricing system for foreigners. It was a tough lesson to learn on our first day, so we got smarter. We started asking for the price up front every single time, and we noticed a huge difference. We also started wandering just a few streets away from the main tourist drags. And guess what? The prices dropped by more than half. And honestly, the food was often even better. It's crazy how just walking 500 feet can save you so much money. Don't assume all street food is cheap. Some of it is a bigger trap than the fancy restaurants. We even found a place that charged us more for a bottle of water than the entire bowl of noodles we were eating. Next on our list of budget busters, tourist attraction fees. You come to Vietnam to see the incredible sights, right? The temples, the historic landmarks, the natural wonders. But what they don't advertise is how quickly those entrance fees stack up. It feels like every single pagoda, waterfall, or historical site has a ticket booth right at the front. On their own, they might not seem like much. $5 here, $10 there. But when you're trying to see 3 or 4 places in a single day, it adds up faster than you can say Ha Long Bay. We wanted to do the famous cable car ride up to Bana Hills near Da Nang. We saw the pictures of the Golden Bridge held up by giant hands and knew we had to go. We got there and the ticket price was insane. It was over $35 per person. For a family of 4, that would be over $140, just for one attraction. That's more than some people's entire daily budget for Vietnam. It was a massive, unexpected hit to our finances. We almost turned around and left, but we had come all that way. It was a really tough decision. This became a running theme. The Imperial City in Hue, the boat tours in Ninh Binh, even some of the smaller temples had fees that felt disproportionately high compared to the cost of everything else in the country. It creates a weird dilemma. Do you skip seeing these world-famous places to save money, or do you just blow your budget to get the full experience? We ended up having to pick and choose, which was a huge bummer. We had to literally sit down with a map and a calculator to decide which historical sites we could afford to see. It's a side of travel nobody really talks about. Okay, let's talk about getting around. We thought transportation would be a breeze. We planned on using ride-sharing apps, which are usually super cheap in Southeast Asia. And in the big cities like Ho Chi Minh City, they were pretty reliable and affordable. But the second we went to smaller towns or tourist hotspots, things got crazy. We were in Hoi An, and trying to get a grab car was nearly impossible. The demand was so high and the prices surged like you wouldn't believe. What should have been a 5-minute $2 ride was suddenly quoting us $10 or $15. The real shock came when we tried to take a traditional taxi. We had to get from our hotel to the Da Nang airport, which isn't that far. We flagged down a taxi on the street and the driver was super friendly. He pointed to the meter and everything seemed legit. But we were watching the meter and it was going up fast, like unbelievably fast. It was clicking over every few seconds. We were stuck in traffic, not even moving, and the fare was climbing like a rocket ship. It was the most stressful ride of my life. By the time we got to the airport, a trip that should have cost around $15 ended up being almost $50. We were furious. We knew the meter had to be rigged, but what could we do? We had a flight to catch. We argued for a bit, but in the end, we just had to pay it. It felt like highway robbery. After that, we swore off street taxis unless we absolutely had to. We learned to pre-book private cars through our hotels or use the ride-sharing apps and just be patient, no matter how long it took. That one taxi ride cost us more than 2 nights in our hotel. This next one is something every traveler needs, a phone connection. We landed at the airport and immediately went to one of the kiosks to get a local SIM card. We figured it would be simple and cheap. There were all these signs advertising unlimited data for what seemed like a good price, maybe $15. We picked a plan, the lady set it up in our phone, and we were on our way, happy to be connected. For the first few days, everything was great. We were posting stories, using Google Maps, all the usual stuff. Then, about 5 days into our trip, my data just stopped working, completely cut off. I thought it was a network issue, but my friend's phone was working fine. I checked the little pamphlet that came with the SIM card, and hidden in the tiniest print imaginable, it said unlimited data with an asterisk. The asterisk led to a note that said high-speed data capped at 2 gigabytes per day. After you hit that cap, the speed was so slow it was basically useless. It was not unlimited at all. It was a total lie. We were in a rural area with no Wi-Fi, and we desperately needed maps to get around. We had no choice but to find a local phone shop and top up our data. The top-up cards were surprisingly expensive, and we ended up spending another $10 just to get a few more gigabytes to last us until we reached the next city. Over the course of our 3-week trip, we probably spent over $50 just on phone data between the initial unlimited SIM and all the top-ups. It was a sneaky, frustrating expense that we were completely unprepared for. Always read the fine print, people. Finally, let's talk about something Vietnam is famous for: coffee. We were so excited to try the traditional egg coffee and the super strong iced coffee with condensed milk. And you can definitely find those for less than $1 at little local spots. But we also wanted to check out some of the trendy, Instagrammable cafes that you see all over social media. These places look incredible, with beautiful decor, air conditioning, and amazing views. We walked into one in Ho Chi Minh City that was decked out like a European palace. We sat down, looked at the menu, and almost had a heart attack. The price for a single cup of coffee was more than we had paid for our entire lunch earlier that day. We're talking $7 or $8 for a latte. That's more expensive than Starbucks in New York City. We were already seated and felt awkward leaving, so we just ordered the cheapest thing on the menu. We were surrounded by other tourists and well-dressed locals, all snapping photos of their fancy drinks. It was a completely different world from the street-level cafes just around the corner. This happened over and over again. The aesthetic cafes, especially those with rooftop views or unique themes, charged an enormous premium. You're not paying for the coffee. You're paying for the photo opportunity and the air conditioning. It made us realize that there are two completely separate economies operating side by side in Vietnam's big cities. There's the local economy, where things are incredibly affordable, and then there's the tourist and high-end economy, where prices are inflated to Western levels or even higher. That $8 coffee was the single most expensive per item thing we bought, and it was just coffee. So there you have it, the 5 expenses in Vietnam that completely caught us by surprise. From the $40 street food meal to the $8 cup of coffee, it was a wild ride for our wallets. The biggest shock for us, without a doubt, had to be the taxi meter scam. It wasn't just the amount of money, but the feeling of being so blatantly ripped off that really stuck with us. It's a reminder that no matter how much you research, you have to stay vigilant and be prepared for anything when you're on the road. But I want to be super clear. Despite these budget shocks, Vietnam is an absolutely incredible, beautiful, and wonderful country. For every overpriced cafe, there are 100 amazing local spots with delicious, cheap food. For every rigged taxi, There are countless kind and honest people who will go out of their way to help you. These experiences didn't ruin our trip. They just made it more of a learning experience. They taught us to be smarter travelers, to ask questions, and to sometimes venture off the beaten path. We hope sharing our mistakes helps you plan your own adventure a little better. Don't let these stories scare you away from visiting. Just go in with your eyes open. Be aware of the potential tourist traps, and always ask for the price first. It's a lesson we had to learn the hard way. Which of these costs surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more travel surprises. We have so many more stories to share. Thanks for watching.